and look at the 45, 45, 90. I'll do that one in red. And if this angle then is 45 degrees, there's a right triangle here. And if, again, this is the length of the radius of this circle, which is 1, then this measurement would be what? Well, let's recall that if I have 45, 45, 90, if this was A, this would be equal to A as well, because the 45, 45, 90 is a right isosceles triangle. And then we discussed how this would be equal to the length of A times the square root of 2, using Pythagorean theorem. But in this case, if this is 1, what is this? I'm trying to tell you that this would be equal to 1, the hypotenuse. So what is the measurement of A? Wouldn't it be 1 divided by the square root of 2? Well, how did I get that? Now look at this right here. If I solve for A, that means I have to divide both sides by the square root of 2, and I get A equals 1 over radical 2. I don't like this. We don't like this. We need to simplify that. So how do we do that? Let's come down here. Simplifying that, I can multiply this times the value of 1 in the form of square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. I'll get radical 2 over radical 2 squared, which of course is radical 2 over 2. So let's erase all this and clear up our diagram again. This then is going to be radical 2 over 2, and this is going to be radical 2 over 2. And so what are the coordinates of the 45, 45, 90? We have more. So I'm going to remove these dimensions. I'm going to put the 45, 45, 90 back, but just in this form here. And then we'll use a different color. And we'll use green. I guess I should have made that green as well. This is going to be, what do you think angle this is going to be? That was 30. This being 45. This next one's going to be 60 degrees. When I draw that triangle, all this stuff is going to be in the way, so I'm going to pull some of it out. I'll leave this there. Just to get it out of the way. I'll put it back in later. To draw this triangle as a right triangle, this angle down here being 60, that makes this one 30. This is 1. So which leg, this one or this one, is going to be half? This one's going to be 1/2 because it is the short leg. So now this longer leg is going to be 1/2 times the square root of 3, which of course we already determined, simplified, would be radical 3 over 2. And so what are the coordinates of this point right here? It's going to be this x direction, 1/2, and this y direction, radical 3 over 2. Now I'm hoping you can see a pattern here with these. I keep calling them cardinal marks. That's more lingo for a compass. But with these marks, the 30, the 60, and the 90-degree angle, or excuse me, 45-degree angle, we get these 3 coordinates. If I replicated those points on the opposite side here of the y-axis, meaning in the second quadrant, what would be the xy coordinates of these 3 points? This one, and this one. I want you to hit pause right now. Can you fill that in? And coming out of pause. I didn't really need to pause. I waited because I had to go close the door because people were being loud. Okay, what are the coordinates of this? Well, wouldn't they be the same values as its mirror over here, except what's going to happen with the x coordinate? It's going to be negative. So it's negative 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. For the 45, 45, 90, it's going to be the same, except it's negative square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. And then, for the 30, 60, 90, the reference angle of 30, reference angle of 45, reference angle of 60, the reference angle of 30 here is going to be negative radical 3 over 2, 1/2. Now let's repeat. Rinse and repeat. I'm going to fill this in. You should hit pause, fill it in yourself right now, and I'm going to keep trying and fill it in. It won't be so long a wait. And hopefully filled all those points. Those are coordinates with all those points. And I'm going to ask you to know the coordinates of these points, but it shouldn't be that huge a deal because it's common sense. Maybe not the points in this coordinate. Those you might need to know, but I'm going to show you a pattern in a second that'll make it easier. But then these are the same. These are the same in the second quadrant, except what happens with the sign in the x coordinate? It's negative. Why? Because we're in the negative x direction. What happens to the coordinates in the third quadrant? We gain negative signs in both the x and y. Why? Because we're in the negative x direction and we're in the negative y direction. We're past we're negative y past the origin and negative x past the origin. So that's why all of these x and y's are negative. Oops, went too far. In the fourth quadrant, the x's become positive again because we're in positive x. And then the y's are negative because we're below the x-axis. So that, if you can construct the first quadrant, you should be able to construct the second quadrant adjusting the signs, the third quadrant adjusting the signs, and the fourth quadrant adjusting the signs. Now, the pattern. Hopefully you can see this. The x-coordinate goes, if I kind of ignore the radical and put a radical in every numerator. Well, Mr. Cook, the half doesn't have a radical. Well, isn't this the same? Radical 1 is 1. So if you want to make the pattern more consistent, negative 1, square root of negative 1, square root of negative 1, square root of 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 1. Now, all the numerators have square roots. And the x goes 3, 2, 1, because this is the x coordinate on the 30-degree angle is longer, so the x is going to be longer than the y. The 45, the x and y's are going to be the same. And then in the 60-degree reference angle, the x is shorter, the y is longer. But it's always the same values. The signs change, but it's always the same value. So it's 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 in the x, 3, 2, 1 in the y. So it's kind of all the same. If you can really remember the first quadrant, you should be set. In addition, we do need to know these four, the coordinates for points here on the axes. So if you can fill those in, that would be great. I'm filling them in now. Oops, extend to the page. Now I get this scooted back up here. All right. So what's the coordinate for x right here? You should be thinking 0. And if I'm talking about this point, that's 1. What's the coordinate of this point right here? Should be x is 1, y is 0. And then here, x is 0, y is -1. And over here, x is -1, y is 0. And that's the unit circle. That's it. Now, what is its purpose? We'll get to that in a second video. So that's it for this one.